that was too expensive for small businesses to do. Before
Yeah.
AI,
You're listening to the Streamline Success Show. I'm your host, Dagmar Schult. In this podcast, we talk about how AI and automation can help busy coaches like you simplify their online businesses. We share practical advice that you can start using immediately. So, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Streamline Success Show. Today I have with me Jonathan Lightfoot, and Jonathan is not only the president of Symbiont, he is also an AI developer, and he is very smart in doing automations. I know that. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
thank you, Dagmar. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Jonathan, today we want to talk a little bit about the software you've developed, which is COMPETRACK. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, you did.
So, okay, cool. So, what is COMPETRACK about, and why did you came up with it?
Well, COMPETRACK, to give credit where credit is due, that came from one of Jack Roberts' automations that I was able to get a hold of, build out, and actually customize a lot more. But it's something that I think in the past, one thing I tell people, I worked for large companies over my entire career. And I told them all, I was like, every large company has a competitive analysis department or division. They don't talk about it, but they do look at each other, they watch each other. I used to work for this little bitty cruise line company called Norwegian Cruise Line.
I know that. I was on a cruise with my mom with them.
They're the third largest right now. But we used to shop Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Viking. What I mean by shop is employees, we would actually be paid by Norwegian Cruise Line to go book tickets and go
Yeah.
cruising on competition. And then we
Oh,
would come back and we would write a full report on everything that happened, like from day one till day seven, everything that happened. So that's how we were able to know what Royal is. And people are amazed because I did work for the cruise lines. And people to this day come to me and they say, "Hey, Jonathan, what's a good cruise?" I'm like, "Oh, you got kids? Yeah, go to Disney. Disney is the best place to go." And they're like, "You aren't going to recommend Norwegian?" No, Norwegian's not too good compared to Disney, in that area. But like,
nice.
if you're a 20
Yeah.
something year old with your college friends, go Carnival. Yep, you want to go on Carnival. They're going to let you drink and have a good time. You don't want to go on Norwegian because that's more family oriented, right? And people are amazed how I know that. I'm like, well, because we used to spy on them. I mean, and you respect them after a while. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're good at that.
Yeah.
But that was too expensive for small businesses to do. Before
Yeah.
AI, like I said, those reports, they cost $5,000, $10,000, and it might take a month to get them. And that's a lot of money to spend on a report that is a month or even a quarter, 3 months old.
Yeah.
Those are old trends, but with AI, we can offer something very inexpensive. But basically, CompuTrack is a competitor analysis tool where it's able to go through and look at businesses' competition, anywhere from 5 to 10 different competitors, look at publicly available information, things like their website, pricing information, customer reviews, and we also now have employee reviews,
Yeah.
and be able to establish what kind of changes have there been? So if the website changes, well, what changed? If prices changed, what were the price changes? As well as looking at what are customers saying and what are even employees are saying. And this was built because a lot of times, businesses, they start working in their business and they might put together a business plan and they may look at, well, who's the competition in the space? But for a lot of small businesses, that's the only time they ever look, and they
Mhm.
don't realize that the industry and their competitors are changing the game, if you will, and they're not able to keep up with it. By the time they figure it out, it's often too late. So CompuTrack was put in place to give small and medium-sized businesses, entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, a steady stream of competitive analysis on what's happening in the space. Because often, as I tell people, business owners are so busy working in their business that they don't have time to work on their business, and that can put up blinders for them.
Yeah, totally right. And before we started this podcast, you gave a little example. I really love that because people are not aware who their competitors really are. So can you repeat that, please?
Sure. When we started COMPETRACK, we did a lot of research around the marketplace. And one thing I like to do is talk to small business owners and ask them, can you name your three top competitors or name three competitors of yours? And I noticed a trend. I would get one of two answers. Either the first answer they would say is some large organization like Airbus or Boeing or some very large company, or they would have the other side of it and they'll say, well, we don't have any competitors. And which I thought was very interesting, like, oh, you don't have any competition. People don't like when I say this, but that's not true. Every single business has competition. Now, a lot of times what we discovered is the business owners thought their value proposition was what they were offering. And that's true. You can have a unique value proposition that nobody else is doing, let's say. However, there are still people going after the same dollars, the same consumers, the same eyeballs in the digital world that you're trying to capture as well. They may not do it as good as you. They may not do it the way that you do it. They may not use the same things you use, but they're still going after the same market. And the example I like to use is bakery. If you go to a bakery owner and ask, hey, who are your competitors? They might point to the bakery down the street or across town. And they'll say, yeah, those are my competitors. And I like to say, well, hold on. What about the supermarket that has a bakery in it now? What about the coffee shop that has those delicious little pastries in the window? What about in here in the States, they have these meal delivery services who now offer baked goods and desserts as a part of it. Those are your competitors as well. And even though they go at it differently, even though they have a different process and things like that, they're still trying to, in the case of a bakery, get people to buy their baked goods. So that's where that example comes from and why I think it's so important because, I mean, I lived in London for several years and I remembered you would go to the butcher to get your meat, right? You went to the baker to get your bakery goods. You went to the general type store to get your, canned goods or regular groceries. But when you have stores like I think it was Tesco come around where they have everything in there, a lot of those businesses, it didn't happen anymore. So now a lot of those small businesses are out of business because they couldn't keep up with the change. They didn't realize what that meant to have a supermarket that had everything in it.
Yeah, right. So does your software help people to find out who all the competitors are? Or do the people need to already know to use your software to analyze the competitor? So do I have to know the competitor first, or does the software help with it?
Well, the way the software is set up is it's a service. So as a part of the onboarding process, we collect information from the user. We ask, who are your top five competitors or who are five
Hmm.
of your competitors? Oftentimes they might give us one or two, some can give us five, but if they don't know the other three or four, or however many that they don't have, we can go out as a part of the package to find those competitors. That's based on the industry along with what their line is. And we're able to say, okay, here are other competitors you should look at if you don't have them all. We found that we can do the reports with as little as three, but we found that optimal is about five. So if we can get five competitors, that enables us to help. The good thing is sometimes we've had people send back and say, okay, here are my three competitors. And we might turn around and say, well, what about these other two? And they'll come back like, I didn't even know these people existed, or I didn't know this company existed. And so even then, before we even released the very first report, they've already gotten information that they never knew before anyway. So that it reinforced to me that a lot of times small businesses just don't really know who they're competing against because again, they're working in their business and not on their business.
Yeah, that's totally right. My target audience are coaches and course creators. So they might think about the next door coach that does similar things, but they might not know who else is there taking care of their audience. So I think that is very important what you do there.
You also have to think about, with your audience, your coaches and course creators, there's a lot of you might know other coaches because you're a part of associations and everything else,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of freelancers. There are a lot of other offerings that are starting to offer coach-like, course creation-like services
Yes.
on the bottom that you don't even realize. An example that I tell people is here in the States, there used to be a toy company, toy store known as Toys R Us. It was very popular when I was growing up. They don't exist right now. When the internet age came, they didn't get on board with the website. They didn't get on board with any of that. And it's like the last few years, they made a partnership with Amazon to
Hmm.
have Amazon ship their toys for them, but they never worked on their own platform because they just figured we'll just use the Amazon platform.
Well,
Well, Toys R Us does not exist now. I'm sure you know, and but if anybody remembers, Amazon started off selling books.
yes,
That's what
I
it
know.
did. It
Yeah.
sold books.
Hmm.
And what the behemoth that we see today 20 something years ago, I would have never imagined. I would have thought, okay, bookstores are out of business. But now, because Toys R Us did not realize that, hey, this other player came in and they weren't even directly trying to go after Toys R Us. It just made business sense for toy companies to go directly to Amazon and say, well, you sell our toys, which shut out Toys R Us. So I think that when you talk about COMPETRACK and competitive analysis, you have to keep an eye on what's happening in the space. Who else is offering coaching services? Who else is offering some form of course development? Because what might seem small today could end up growing up later on to be the behemoth. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I wanted to do CompuTrack was I understand, running a business is tough. You have 100 things you're doing, different hats you're wearing. You're trying to sell, you're trying to market, you're trying to develop. You're also still trying to deliver. So you can't, it's hard to keep an eye on all the little blips that occur and then be able to make sense of it. So that's the biggest value I think CompuTrack adds is we're able to provide that type of analysis and those types of insights that you don't normally see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. And actually, it's my offer to my audience that I help them with AI and automation to help them free up time for doing the things that matter and the important things in their business, to working on their business instead of it. So the inside the business work can be done by AI often. So I love totally what you do there. So helping them even more by helping them keeping track of competitors that they are not even aware of all the time. So, yeah,
Mhm.
cool. So I love that. So, Jonathan, please let me know and let my audience know what is your service about?
CompuTrack delivers a weekly report on what's happening with your competitors. So those five competitors, let's say, what it does is we go through, we look at the website. What changes did they make? Did they add new specials? Did they create a new program? Or did they awarded some kind of an award? Just little those bits of changes. Because just like every other small business, any major change they're going to do their operations, they're going to reflect it on the website in some way. And so we're able to see it. And also, we don't just say, okay, they changed their prices. We talk about, okay, it went up. Their prices went up. But also, we can pull industry data to say, hey, we're noticing a trend is ticking up. All coaches, let's say for your audience, all coaches are starting to trend up 10% increases in their prices. So now okay, it's okay for me to make that price increase or what have you. We also are like little detectives where we try to figure out, we don't go too deep, but we try to figure out why did this change occur? Why did they stop offering these services? Why is there something this is not needed or things like that? But also it gives insights on to what the customers are looking at. So we can look at the customer reviews and it might come back to say, like I just did a report last night for our industries that we work with. Personalization is a huge
Mm.
request that customers are asking for across all industries. I mean, not just the professional services, but all industries, customers want personalization. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a little free tip to your to your team there.
Yes.
If you're not personalizing your offering, you're falling behind because that's what the customers are wanting. Again, this was not something that a week or two ago I even knew about. But when you start seeing these different changes on the websites and you start seeing how they're wording stuff, it's like, oh, they're personalizing more and more. When you look at the industry reports, it even shows it. But also, we can look at things like what are the employees saying? here in the States, there's several websites that we can go to where employees air the dirty laundry, if you will, where they talk about, oh, we don't have this, or we don't have that, we don't like this, or we love this, or we love that. But it gives you, because you're working in the same space, okay, here's an issue. Maybe all employees are complaining about infrastructure issues or management issues or what have you. Now that gives our clients that little extra edge. All right, let me make sure that I am emphasizing how we're different or how we don't have those problems and things like that. So that's the other thing. These reports come out every week. We do it once a week. You get a new report. Sometimes there might not be any changes. In that case, you'll get a little bit of a blurb that says, hey, nothing changed on, but here's a to-do list of things to check out for your business too. So it's pretty much they don't have to do it themselves. Now, there are other companies that offer competitive analysis and they cost thousands of dollars. We went and priced them. I mean, you're looking at things $5,000 to $6,000. It might be a month before they get it out to you and things like that. We offer CompeTrack as a monthly subscription, very affordable, that people basically you pay on a monthly basis, where every week you'll get this report so you're able to keep up with them. But also, every 6 months, we go back and we look at your competition. We also look to see who were new players. So you may have let's say five coaches, and they're all doing the exact same thing. But we go back and do what's known as a true up. We say, okay, we know these five exist. Who else is in here who could possibly be coming under the radar? And we'll
Mhm.
send an alert to say, hey, we've noticed these
Well,
companies or these organizations are coming. Would you like to replace one of your other five to keep up with what they're doing as well?
mhm.
If you want to sign up for it, there are several ways. The easiest, the fastest way is to contact me on LinkedIn. It's Jonathan Lightfoot. That's JOHNATHAN Lightfoot. And you can send me a DM. After this, I can send you a link to our actual page where you can sign up for a free report, where basically we'll run a report of a just overall industry where you tell us what your industry is. You can then say, what's your biggest goal and what's your biggest challenge, and we can generate a report for you that talks about the top five trends in your industry to give you kind of a flavor of how CompuTrack works. And when you do that, you also will have the opportunity once you submit the form to set up an appointment to talk to either myself or one of my assistants about CompuTrack and how we could potentially implement it for you. And the reports are, I should have said this, it's not like text. It's a beautiful presentation. I can send you a sample. It's a very beautiful presentation, 8 to 12 slides. So you can basically go through a bunch of bullet points, just saying, here's what's happening. And also, we give actionable steps at the end of each each report. We say, hey, because of these changes, here are things you should do or you can work on so you can be prepared for this or you can counter this type of a thing. So it's very user friendly and all. But all it is the report. I only provide the service. We don't sell the actual automation or anything. It's just, once we onboard you, you start getting those reports.
Cool. Thank you. I have another question that just came up to my mind when you were talking. So when you see that people change their services, can you see trends where it is going to? Maybe if they all change to something specific, so
Yes.
that you
So
say, yeah,
go ahead.
that you can say, okay, see more than this service, this would be better because this is trending right now. People want it, obviously.
Yes.
Mm.
So one of our clients, they are a certification and training company around IT, and we were tracking them for several months. Or several weeks. We were tracking their competitors, and we noticed one week three of the competitors dropped a class that they were doing. And the next week, the other two competitors they dropped the similar classes. So we were able to report that to the client and say, hey, all of your competitors over the last 2 weeks have stopped offering this course. And she was able to come back and say, oh, that's because, and the reason for it was something had happened with that certification where it kind of lost its shine, if you will.
Okay.
Employers weren't looking at it the same way anymore. And I think maybe it was because it was outdated or something. So she hadn't taken it off of her site. or her offerings, and she was able to come back and say, we checked, we haven't had anybody sign up for that class in like 3 or 4 weeks. So she was able to pull that offering and offer another one. We were able to show her that we did notice that more of the competitors are starting to offer AI training type stuff. So that started her to be able to go and say, okay, I need to develop an AI course for IT people, IT professionals as well. Again, if she was working in her business without CompuTrack, I'm not sure she would have known in time that this had occurred and it was a major shift that she needed to do.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I love the service that you do. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being my guest. And I will put all your contact information to this podcast so that people can get in contact with you. I had a great time. Thank you and bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Streamline Success Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, and to get access to today's show notes, head over to community.marketingunraveled.com. See you on the next episode.